Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, welcome to my podcast. Welcome to my home. So today I wanted to talk about division culture. You know, we're very much in a culture right now that feels divided because it is divided. And I'm going to start with one particular aspect that I noticed recently. And I'm going to go from there. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going to stay on this particular dynamic the whole time or branch off into other aspects of the division culture, because there's actually a lot of aspects of it. So we'll see where this goes. So the thing that I noticed like a week or two ago was like the way that I look at things, the way that I think is usually starting from the core and then working my way back out to the surface. And the reason I do that is because to me, there's more truth at the core. And then when you get closer to the surface, well, things look very different. You can have 10 different things that all look like they're different on the surface. But when you follow them all the way down, they have a common core that they come off of. So I was thinking about the division, and it's been quite a while now that I've noticed that in my opinion, we've gone too far with the boundaries. You know, we learned that boundaries were healthy, whatever, 10, 20 years ago, and it's gotten more and more popular setting boundaries. Unfortunately, most people don't know how to set boundaries efficiently or effectively. They don't understand what boundaries actually are and the dynamics of a boundary. So really, it's like now if you say, well, I cut this person out of my life because they're toxic, everybody's like, oh, well, way to go. That's a gigantic act in self-love. Now, whether that person was actually toxic or whether it was actually necessary to go that far to cut that person out of your life, nobody really looks at that or talks about that. You know, it's just, oh, well, you set a boundary and you cut this person out of your life. Good for you. Way to protect your energy and all this stuff. Like, and really, you know, we do this whenever we're making a correction, individually and collectively. We overcorrect. So, and we and we often do things that we don't understand what we're actually doing. You know, human beings don't usually ask, should I? They ask, can I? And if we can do something, we go do it. And then we find out later that we probably shouldn't have, or there's repercussions that we never thought of or looked at because we never even looked in that direction. So, you know, we're setting too many boundaries. And that's just one door into this. There's other aspects that affect this, like social media, celebrating or congratulating divisiveness, and even confidence. Like somebody can say something that's completely not true I see this all the time in public and on television. They can say things that aren't true, but if they sound confident, people just believe them. Like, nobody knows what's true and what's false anymore because there's so much mixed stuff out there on the internet and everywhere, that so now people have just kind of given up even trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong, or what's true and what's false. They just go, well, this resonates with me, it sounds good, so I'm going to hop on this boat. I mean, this is why the news stations are still in business. Like, anybody that watches any news at this point and thinks that they are getting the truth is delusional, in my opinion. It's because I've looked at both of them, and they are both lying tremendously, repeatedly, both sides. So, but yet most people think that you should watch the news so you can stay informed, but you're not informed. That's not informing you. That's lying to you and telling you false truths. Anything that actually had any value or strength to it, you you think the government's going to let you know? Do you think they're actually going to let you know what's going on behind the scenes? Why they make decisions, what repercussions of things that have happened or might happen, or like that it's silly. So let's get back on topic. We have to get to, when we're looking at our personal lives, we can't control the news and the external world. What we can control is the world that we create. We can bring, not only can we bring love into this world through the way we show up in our world, but we can be an example of it for others. We can actually create a very loving world. And if more people did that, we'd have a more loving world. Like, everybody's, like, look at all the dysfunction. If I'm loving, what does that do for the world? Well, it literally makes a more loving world, literally. Because society, I've said this a million times, society isn't a thing outside of you. Society is made up of people. So if the majority of the people started acting more loving, thinking more loving, speaking more loving, being more loving, then we would have a more loving world. But somehow we're waiting for some magical politician, or I don't know what. I don't think anybody's thought far enough ahead to understand that there is no other solution. Like, we have to become more loving to have a more loving society. There's just no other way to accomplish it. There isn't a magical law that somebody's going to pass that's going to suddenly make it illegal to be an asshole. So, like, it's kind of up to us. So, people are going like, oh, that, one person can't do anything, said 8 billion people. But if each person just did their part, then things would start changing. So I guess it's kind of I guess I kind of jumped into the overview before I dove into the specifics. So the specific that I was going to talk about was, like, when I grew up, and it wasn't just my generation, who somebody was to you was the most important thing. That was the core of everything. Like, if somebody was your friend, they were your friend. And there was a level of loyalty in friendships. Not saying it was perfect, but there was a level of loyalty in your friendships. If somebody was your family, there was a level of loyalty within your family. Like, I mean, most people have experienced, like, you could be in the middle of an argument with a family member or a close friend, and then somebody else jumps in and starts laying into your family member or your friend, and you're like, whoa, 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 back off. And they're like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Like, you were just ripping them for the same thing. It's like, yeah, but I can rip them because they're my family or they're my friend. You can't. You don't have that right. You're not in my circle. They're in my circle, and I've got their back. So lay off. That's how it used to be. So, why? Like, look underneath that. Look, understand the dynamic. Understand why it was like that. Understand the logical line of thinking that created that. And that is that who they were to you was the most important thing, which is it has an energy of unconditional love to it, right? They're your family. Like, you're going to protect them. You're going to stand up for them. At the end of the day, they're still your family. Whether you agree with them or whether you don't agree with them, who cares? Who cares if they don't agree with you is a big part of that, of this podcast. We didn't care. I didn't care if one of my friends disagreed with me. Don't get me wrong, we might get into a little argument over it. And then whatever. And then we moved on. Oh, we should do this. No, we should do that. And then we argue. And then maybe other friends jump in or whatever. So it got figured out somehow, maybe through other people's input or whatever. And then we decided to go do one of the things. And whoever lost didn't get to do what they wanted to do. That sucks. Well, let's go have some fun over here. It wasn't this, you don't get me. What about my feelings? How come we always do what you want to do? Like, we worked through that stuff. It wasn't, we didn't take it so seriously. And I think that's a big key, is now it's the opposite. Like, you have to agree with me. Well, this person's on the right and I'm on the left, or this person's on the left, I'm on the right. Like, I don't even know who they are. I don't even know how they think. It's because you can't even have a conversation with them to find out how they think, because we don't even know how to have conversations anymore. It's and I mean, so we don't have conversations in hopes of understanding the other person. And then we wonder why we never understand the other person. It's because you're not looking to. Like, you're not trying to understand what they're saying. You're trying to get them on your side. You're trying to get them to think the way you think. You're not trying to understand the way they think. So of course you're not going to understand the way they think. And now everybody thinks half the country is crazy. Well, it's not true. Half the country isn't magically crazy because they don't see everything the exact way that you do. And we oversimplify our side. It's like, whoa, well, you don't like this political side. Well, they are, everything about them is evil. So therefore you must be evil. Well, I look at it this way, but no, evil. This is the way you have to think, or else I can't talk to you. And the other side does the same thing. There's many different ways to look at everything, and there's many different opinions on everything. And just because you've narrowed it down in your brain and pigeonholed something to pretend that there aren't multiple ways of looking at it, there are multiple ways of looking at it. There's multiple ways of looking at everything. And then the thing that I see people do is they take a little specific thing and they go, oh, well, this person is sexist. So if you support them in any way, shape, or form, that means you're sexist too, and you support sexist people, and you like sexism, and you're a proponent for sexism, and you're evil, and you hate me because I'm the opposite sex, and we are at war, and we are not the same type of person because you believe in diversity, divisiveness, evil, and sexism. It's like, well, wait a minute. What if I just like that person's foreign policy standards? And I think that that's what we need to focus on right now. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You are a sexist piece of crap that cannot, you're obviously crazy and incapable of forming your own opinions. And the whole world is going to end. Oh, okay. Well, you've got it all figured out then. Congratulations. And like I said, like you can, people can probably read into who I like that being attacking one side. The other side is the same thing. They do the same thing. It's just that we simplify things into such because we're trying to be right. That's the goal. We have to be right, and we have to be confident that we're right. And if we are, then we feel good about ourselves, and we don't feel scared because of all the weird things that are going on in the world and all the difficulties that are transpiring, because we're right and we know we are. And then now we can sleep at night because we've identified Satan. It's like, it's not even reality. Like that like there is no reality in anything that I just said. Like you cannot walk through life doing things like that, thinking things like that, and expect to experience any level of peace, happiness, or joy, or companionship, or community, or pretty much anything that brings meaning to life. But you can be right and confident in it. Best way to feed your ego is just to be right. So do you see what I'm saying here? It's who somebody was to us. It was like nothing could get over on that. Like nothing could trump that. If somebody was my family, nothing was going to make them not my family. Now, like and same with friends. Now I still believe in boundaries when they're done properly and when they're necessary, but most of the time it's not. And this is why, is because we're just going like, oh, do they think like me? No. Oh, okay. Well, then I have to cut them out of my life. They're not my type of person. Diversity. What? Diversity has value, like a lot of value. We can accomplish so much together compared to what we can accomplish alone. And, like what we're doing in society is basically what people have done in celebrity, sports, big business that we've watched fail over and over and over and over, and we still don't learn from it. What famous people have done and what business owners have done is they surrounded themselves by a bunch of yes people that just, yes, whatever you say, yes, you're right, yes, that's the right way to look at it, yes. And every time the business fails or the celebrity has a complete mental breakdown because they get trapped in their head. See, it's this, what's actually happening is it's basically the same thing that happens when you take a person and you stick them on a deserted island all alone and go pick them up years later. They're crazy, right? They're drawing faces on volleyballs and stuff. Why? Because they're trapped inside of their head. And weird stuff starts to make sense when we're trapped inside of our own heads and inside of our own thoughts. So people go crazy when they're left all alone and there's no community, because we're hardwired to live in community with one another, because there's gigantic assets of living in community in every way, shape, or form. So much so that we can literally go insane if we don't talk to other people. That's how hardwired it is. And what we're doing is we're isolating ourselves, and we don't see any value in community. And we're cutting everybody out of our own lives. And then because they disagree, or I don't like their energy, or they're draining me. If they're draining you, why don't you learn how to protect your energy? Like the victim mentality just goes up my ass sideways. Like, I just can't stand it because it's so disempowering. And this is where we are. We're completely immersed in the victim mentality. And I'm talking about the spiritual community. Those of us that are supposed to be like, oh, like, you know, we're creating a better world and all this stuff. We're just caught up in the victim mentality because we're not doing work on ourselves. We're figuring out what's wrong with everybody else and then cutting them out of our lives. Now, I'm not saying that we have to hang around with a bunch of people who drain our energy or are toxic. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it seems like everybody I know knows 350,000 toxic assholes that they have to cut out of their lives because they're just so toxic, which is literally impossible. When was the last time somebody irritated you by the way they thought, or the way they spoke, or the way, or the fact that they disagreed with you, or you got into an argument with, and you weren't at least thinking about cutting them out of your life forever? You weren't demonizing them for hours and days and weeks afterwards, going, oh my God, this person is so lost. They're so divisive. They have no idea what they're talking about. I can't have that in my life. Jesus, calm down. Learn to take care of yourself. Then every Tom, Dick, and Harry coming into your life that thinks a little bit differently doesn't affect you. Did you think of that for a minute? Like, why are you being affected by some loose-lipped cashier at Walmart that has a different opinion than you? Who cares? Now you're going to not go to Walmart or go to a different cash register because you can't stand their energy. Oh my God. Jesus, just let it go. It's not that important. It's not that important that you agree. Why do we think that we're supposed to agree with everybody? I know it's all this stuff that we're talking about. And this is what happens, man. It comes in under the wire. It creeps into our lives, and we don't even notice it's happening because a bunch of other people are doing it. You know, like on social media, there was I was on this group, this spiritual group, and I noticed that there was a lot of posts on there that were anti-men. Whatever. That's part of what's going on right now too. So I decided, somebody literally asked for opinions on their post, and I gave an opinion. And what, and I've done this a few times, and it's pretty comical, because what people do is they put something out that sounds really good spiritually, and it sounds like they know what they're talking about, right? And then like somebody will come in, and it's, I've seen it done to other people even more than I've seen it done to me, because I'm basically aware that this happens and stay out of it for the most part. So I've seen it with other people even more. But what I've seen happen is, if somebody agrees with them, then they're like, oh my God, you must have done so much work on yourself, and you're so enlightened, and you're so profound and amazing and wonderful. And isn't it wonderful that, there's people like you on the planet? And then if somebody disagrees with them or challenges their viewpoint in any way, shape, or form, they just go immediately to, oh, well, geez, it's interesting that you saw it that way. That's not what my post was talking about, but you perceived it that way. So there must be something wrong inside of you that you need to go heal, because you're just projecting it onto me. Like, no, I'm not projecting anything onto you. You said this, and I was just saying an opposing viewpoint. I see it in a different way. We have different opinions. And I thought you asked for a conversation. So I thought we're going to have a conversation, like an exchange of ideas, talk about things in a helpful way. No, well, you didn't like what I said, so therefore you must have some inner child wound that's being triggered that you need to go heal. It's like, oh my God. You sound so spiritual. And of course I've gone back and I'm like, well, no, I don't think I'm projecting this because of this, and this. You said this. Does that not mean this? And they'd be like, no, it doesn't mean that. Be like, men suck. Okay, that's some sort of derogatory comment about men. Well, no, only if you perceive it that way. And if you do, then there's something wrong with you. Really? The problem in this world is men. Well, I don't see it that way because of this. Well, then there must be something wrong with you that you need healed. So if I agree with you, then I'm a spiritually enlightened guru, and that just oozes love. And then if I have a conflicting perspective, then I'm dysfunctional, I'm lost, and I need to go heal. That's a great way to make sure that you're always right. And that's what these people do, and it's rampant in the spiritual communities. I mean, it's everywhere, but it's rampant in the spiritual communities. This is why I don't interact with a lot of them, because this is what I see. It's like, oh, everybody got their certification, and now everybody that doesn't think the way they do just obviously isn't enlightened enough. And it's and what they're doing is they're building their own prison. They're painting themselves into a corner where the only one, they're trapped in their own thoughts, but then the only people that they interact with are people who see things the exact same way that they do. So they're not growing. You can't grow that way. You can't grow in a vacuum, especially an information vacuum. And they're carefully catering who's allowed into their vacuum. Anybody that doesn't see things the way they do, they just push out to the side. No, they're not allowed in. They're bad energy. They're toxic. They need healing. I can't have that in my Zen space. It's like, okay, And then they're sitting in their Zen space, and they're suffering and they don't know why. It's because you're not actually working on yourself. You're creating your own prison. You're pushing away community. You're exiling anybody that thinks differently than you. You're labeling them, judging them as bad. We're never going to have a community that way. We need to get back to the basics with community. So, we have to get out of this idea that people are supposed to agree with us. Like you said, if you went to somebody and said, hey, do you think people have to agree with you? Everybody is supposed to agree with you, otherwise they're a bad person. Now, most people would go, no, that's ridiculous. When you boil it down and say matter of fact, it's ridiculous when you say it out loud. But if you look at their actions, that's exactly what they're doing. So we have to get back to valuing one another. I know it sounds so weird when I say that. Like, we just don't value each other. I love connecting to old friends because it's like, it's like no time passed. I can just go have a conversation, and it's just like, I can insult my friends from high school and they will laugh at me. I love that. Why? Because our friendship wasn't based on agreeing and seeing things the same way. Of course, there was some similarities. Maybe we liked doing the same thing. Maybe we liked the same sports. Maybe we liked going to parties. Maybe we liked this or that. But we were still individuals. We still had our own ways of thinking. And sometimes we pissed each other off hardcore. But eventually we get over it. I mean, heck, a lot of guys in school, like, you became really good friends with somebody after you fought them. And what's interesting about that dynamic is, if you really look at the dynamic, what's that about? How did that work? Well, basically what it is it's the testosterone, especially in young men. And I guess men that don't mature, but it's this testosterone level that, like, you're kind of looking for respect, right? So you got these two boys with all this testosterone in them, and they're like trying to figure out how to fit in and all this stuff. And then, there's somebody that's behaving in a way that they don't like. Well, okay, now it's a problem because it's not a friend of yours, it's an outsider, right? Now, if your friend did the same thing, it'd probably be okay because they're your friend, because that's the most important thing. But this one ain't a friend. So now it's a problem. So now all of a sudden you guys start arguing and you start going back and forth. And somewhere it crosses a line from a normal argument to basically like a challenge. It's like, basically somebody says or does something to the other one because they get mad enough where, or they feel confident enough that they can take this one, that, like, they're just going to throw it out there, and the other person is going to either tuck tail and take the loss and probably be looked down on by everybody, or they're going to stand up for themselves. One of those two things is going to happen. So then, in this scenario, they get in a fight. Doesn't really matter who wins. It's just that now all of a sudden the dynamic is between them energetically, that they both respected each other because they saw that they both stood up for themselves. They didn't tuck tail and run away, and that they stood up. It's like, oh, well, I might have disagreed with him, but at least he stood up for himself. That's important. Now, all of a sudden, there's a level of respect because they stood up for themselves. Well, now you respect somebody. You can have a relationship with somebody that you respect. So now, all of a sudden, they become friends. It's like, oh, didn't you guys fight 6 months ago? Yeah. What was that about? Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. Didn't really matter most of the time. Or even if you didn't remember, it didn't matter. It's not about that. We're not enemies anymore. We're friends. So now you're friends, and they can say the same exact thing to you that pissed you off and caused the fight, and you're not going to fight them. You're not going to get pissed off at them. It's your friend now. Whatever. You let it go. We're friends with, that was one of the amazing things in my class. I grew up in a small town, Massachusetts, and graduated high school in 1986. And our class was a little bit bigger than other classes. I think we had the classes immediately around us, like a couple of years before and a couple of years after. And so I think we had a little bit more people, literally just numbers wise, in our class. And we had a fair amount of kids that played sports. So like, my junior year was, I mean, it wasn't my senior year. All right. But like our class kind of made up the majority of some of the sports teams that I was on. And so our presence was very strong. Right. And quite honestly, I mean, yeah, we butt heads with some of the kids from the older class, the seniors sometimes. But for the most part, before, during school, and after school, we all got along. But most of us really got along in our class class of 1986. Like we'd party on a weekend, and yes, we would have kids from other classes that would show up, and absolutely more than welcome. We partied together with all kinds of kids from all kinds of classes, which was awesome. And within that dynamic, we partied with a bunch of kids in our class that were the biggest druggies and rock heads that went to all the concerts, and the jocks and the brains, and sometimes the druggie and the jock and the brain was all one person. Like we all did everything. We all so it was just this cool thing, man. And of course it was conflict and arguments and fights and stuff. But I mean, there's such a sense of community in that. There's all types of different people. We weren't like, oh, you're, I'm a jock and you're a brain, so screw you. Or I'm a druggie and you're a jock, so screw you. It wasn't like that. We all partied together. We all hung out together. We had more problems with the towns around us, It was, and not because there was necessarily anything wrong with the kids from the towns around us. Once we got to know them, we actually hung out and got along with them really well too. Like, once we got to know them, but like before we got to know them, just the fact that they weren't part of our community, that was problem enough. What are you doing in our town? It just makes me laugh the way we grew up. But my point is, by no means was it perfect. There was a fair amount of fighting going on and stuff like that. But my point is for the most part, we all got along. Who cares the way somebody thought? Like if I was talking to somebody and they were saying a bunch of stupid stuff, that I was like, this person seems to be out of their mind. Like, I don't agree with anything that they're saying, and or they're interested in things that I'm not interested in, and or they're warped. I think that way they're thinking is warped. Like, I would just walk away and go talk to somebody else. I wasn't trying to figure out how I was going to cut them out of my life. You know, we need to get back to community. And it's, community sounds nice. You say to anybody, hey, we need to get back to community. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's so true. And then nobody does it because they don't think about it. They don't think about, use technology for your favor. Like, ask questions like this. What are the benefits of community? And see all the benefits. Let's see. I'll do it right now. What are the benefits of community? Let's see what technology says. Emotional stability and support, identity and belonging. I'm not going to read all the paragraphs. I'll just read the bullet points. Perspective and growth, practical support, conflict tolerance, motivation and accountability, sense of meaning. These are all just boom. These are the things that we are lacking in society because we have no sense of community. That's why, another reason I love living in the Dominican Republic, because there's a much stronger sense of community here. Somebody posted, somebody that lives in the DR posted something like last week. I might have shared it. I don't know. And they visited, where were they? I think they were in Canada. I think they might be from Canada, not the US. But either way, whether it's Canada or US doesn't really matter. But they were back visiting one of those places, and they got a flat tire with 2 women and 4 kids on some back road somewhere, out in the kind of the woodsy back road area. And some car came by and they, stopped and were like, hey, you guys okay? And they're like, well, we got a flat tire. We're waiting for AAA. It's been hours. We got to wait hours. And they're like, okay, well, we'd stop to help you, but we have to get to karaoke. So we have to go now. Otherwise, we'd help you with the tire. And they drove off. And then somebody else, so then they came back here and to the Dominican Republic, and they had different flights. Different parts of the family had different flights. So the father got home first and went to get one of their cars to go pick up the rest of the family at the airport, and the car wouldn't start. Maybe it was sitting there, so it was dead. So he had to push it out of the way, and he could do it, and he, alone. So he starts doing it, and then some guy comes around the corner that he's never seen before, doesn't know, stops his car, asks if he needs help. He says, no, I'm good. The guy gets out of his car anyway, helps him anyway, pushes it out of the driveway, off to the side of the road, and then so he could get into his other car and go to the airport. And this guy helps him, even though he asked if he needed help, and the guy said, no, I don't need help. The guy stopped his car, got out anyway, helped him anyway, got back in his car, and drove off. Wasn't looking for any money or even a thank you. Just boom. But that's the difference here. And that happens all the time. If you talk to anybody that lives over here in the Dominican Republic, I mean, I think I was still visiting here. Either that or it was when I first moved over. Like me and my now neighbor Tahira were driving on her little scooter down the road. And I think it was the first time I had been on a scooter. And I'm like, I'm on the back. I don't know what to expect. We get out onto the main road. 5 minutes later, we get a flat tire. Oh, what are we going to do? I don't know. I'm like, well, she's like, well, I'm going to try to drive it down to the gas station and see if we can get the tire fixed. And I'm like, well, two of us on it is probably going to wreck the rim. I don't even know if you should do that, but I'll walk and I'll meet you there. So she's like, okay. So she takes off and I start walking. It was probably, I don't know, maybe a mile up the road. So I'm walking not even 5 minutes, and some older Dominican dude pulls over on his little moto. And it's like, you need a ride? I'm like, yeah, okay. So I hop on the back of his moto and we're driving down. And he brings me to the gas station and lets me off, and I climb off and he drives off and I wait. Like, I have no idea who this guy was. But if your car's on the side of the road, you're probably going to have 8 people either stopping their cars, coming out of houses and businesses nearby to help you. But this is how it is over here. It's just such a stronger sense of community. And over here, it's partially because it's necessary. It's partially because it's the culture. It's partially because it's not like there's not a lot of money over here. So a lot of people don't have vehicles. So you need to depend on other people in emergencies and sometimes just regular life stuff. And do you know what they do? They argue. Can you imagine? Like, I'm a very independent person, too much so in certain ways, and I'm trying to work on that. But like, can you imagine growing up with 3 generations in the same house? That happens all the time over here. And when you look at it, there's benefits. The people over here can still get mad at you and then be fine with you an hour later. It's not that big of a deal. And you know what? The people are much happier over here because of it. Now, they can lose their mind. They get, I mean, hell, I had an extremely bad temper when I was young. And I've seen some Dominicans lose their temper. Woo, they can do it, man. They can throw. They can really lose their temper. They can be fiery. But like I said, right afterwards, everything's fine. We got to get back to this. Not necessarily losing our temper all the time, but even if we do, we need to be able to tone it down. So what's important here? That we've lost loyalty. We've lost it in our families. We've lost it in our friendships. We've lost it in our romantic partnerships. We've lost it in business, of course. I think we lost it in business many years ago. I remember my father telling me when I was a kid that there was no loyalty in businesses anymore. Before, you could get hired at a job, you could work there your whole life. You got at least little bits of incremental raises to keep up with the rising cost of living, and you could live a decent life. You could own a home. You could have at least 1 car, a lot of times 2. You could go on a vacation, once a year to Florida, probably, or Canada, where I grew up. But like, you could live a decent life. You could have everything that you needed and go out to dinner every once in a while, and it's just, and that's working at the same place for 40, 50 years. you can't do that anymore. I mean, if you start making too much money, the businesses just cut you out and hire somebody else younger that they can pay less to take your place. And then the businesses are running around going, "Oh my God, there's no loyalty anymore. These my employees, I can't find a loyal employee." It's like, yeah, it's because they barely have enough to live off of, half the people out there. And you have no loyalty to them. You'd cut them out of your business in 5 minutes. And or even if you wouldn't, all the other companies would, if they could save $5 an hour and have their stockholders make $350 million instead of $330 million in 1 year. There's no loyalty anywhere. And I'm not holding my breath for businesses to change. Like, they will. Like, businesses are starting to change a little bit, but businesses are a reflection of society. We think businesses, because they seem big and powerful and have a bunch of money, we think that they control everything, and they don't. They're run on us, just like the country and everything else is. They're run on us. They run on their employees. And this is why everybody's looking around at the millennials and the younger generations and going, "Oh my God, they just want to make tons of money and without paying their dues." It's like, no, they just refuse to be treated like crap and paid like crap when their CEOs are making hundreds of millions of dollars, and so are the stock owners, and they can't even afford a 1-bedroom apartment and a car. They just won't do it. It's just not worth it. So what's happening is everybody's like, well, we have to adapt. We have to, like, this is what the businesses are starting to do, and you're going to see more of it. The businesses are starting to adapt and cater to the employees more. Why? Because the younger generation just said, no, not living like that. I'm not busting my ass for 50, 60, 70 hours a week, while you pay me some crap salary so I don't get overtime. You have no loyalty to me, and I can't even afford a 1-bedroom apartment and a car, or go on vacation while I'm still young and maybe see a different aspect of the world. I can't even live like that. So why? You want me to be a slave for the next 20 years until I pay my dues, and then I get to start living? Screw you. No. And I love it. Big fan of it. So we dictate what the businesses do. We dictate what the government does. We dictate how society is, us individually, by how we choose to live. If we choose to value things like community, loyalty, respect, we will live in a community with those things. But the problem is when you're looking around and going, stop pointing the finger, okay? Because this is how we're staying stuck, is everybody is doing what I said earlier. They're going, I can't change the world. Look, there's 8 billion people that aren't doing it. So what is me doing it going to change? And 8 billion people are saying that. Stop saying that. Stop pointing your finger at the other 8 billion people and just focus on you. Yes, you, just like me, I point the finger at me because I'm the only thing that I can control. And I'm the problem in my life. I am. You're not my problem. I'm my problem. If I have a problem in my life, it's because of the way that I'm looking at it. It's because of the way that I'm interacting with it. And I need to make the changes. And if I want to live in a loving society, then I have to be more loving. I do, not you. I don't care what you do. No offense. But I have no control over it. That's why I don't care. It's not that I don't care. It's just that I realize I don't have any control. I can bring more love into this world. I can value community, be a part of it, interact with my community, help others. I can do that. And I do. And I plan on doing more. And so can you. You can do it too. But stop looking at everything outside of yourself and saying that's the problem. No, that's not the problem. You're the problem. You're the problem in your world. I'm telling you, I've been so removed from a lot of the stuff, the toxic negativity that is going on in the world. I've removed so much of it out of my life that it's starting to feel surreal when I look at it. Like when I do come across something, I have to pause for a minute because I get this weird feeling like, is this actually real? Does this actually transpire in the world? That's how like far removed I'm getting from this toxicity. And you know what that leads to? It leads to a wonderful life. I enjoy my life. I'm surrounded by love. I'm surrounded by loving people. I'm surrounded by community. Because I've done that. It wasn't magic. It's from the work that I did on myself. And when other people disagree with me, I don't care. It's fine. They have the right to disagree with me. They're individuals. They're supposed to disagree with me. Most of them are. And that's good. Diversity, it's a wonderful thing. So let's start. Can we start getting down to the core of things and working from there? What's important? Community, family, friends, loved ones. And just because somebody doesn't think like you, you don't have to cut them out of your life. There's lots of other stages. You can talk to them less. You can talk to them more. You can, like, there's so many different variables, and yet everybody's running around cutting everybody out of their lives. And we're all going to be alone. I mean, I'm not, because I'm building community, but so let's get out of this division culture and all the different things that ways it's coming at us and get back to basics. Live from love, live in community. Be the change you wish to see in the world. That's what it all comes down to. Be the change you wish to see in the world. I'll be the change that I wish to see in the world. And the world will get better because of it. It's already started. Like, I mean, you know, a lot of this was pointing out the division culture. It's what the frickin' podcast is about. But like, I see the other side of this more and more and more and more growing and expanding. And the other side of this is the more loving nature and the people coming together and forming communities. You should see the spiritual community down in Cabarete here. Tons of expats from all around the world forming this amazing, beautiful spiritual community. And you know what? I don't agree with every one of them. But they're still good people doing good things. And I agree with a lot of them, but not all of them. And I'm not supposed to. And they're not supposed to agree with everything that I say. And that's okay. And sometimes I won't see them for a year, and I'll see somebody and I'll be like, oh my God, you, it's been so long. How are you? I love that feeling. Let's bring that back into our world. All right, peeps. Hope that helped. Best wishes. Lots of love. Peace to you.